The briefing room aboard the USS Sentinel was packed tight. 47 officers and analysts filled every chair, their uniforms crisp under the fluorescent lights. The air hummed with the low murmur of conversation, the rustle of classified folders, the quiet confidence of men and women who'd spent decades in service to the flag. Outside the reinforced windows, the Pacific stretched endlessly, deceptively calm under the afternoon sun. Everyone in that room had years of experience: combat tours, strategic planning, crisis management. They'd seen threats from every corner of the globe face down enemies, both foreign and domestic. They thought they'd seen everything. They were wrong. She stood near the back of the room, hands clasped behind her posture, relaxed but alert. Her eyes moved constantly, scanning faces, exit sightlines, a professional habit, the kind that kept people alive in places where hesitation meant death. She wore Navy fatigue, standard issue, but something was off. No rank insignia on her collar, no unit patch on her shoulder, no identification of any kind except a small black bracelet on her left wrist, smooth obsidian that caught no light. Nobody knew who she was. Nobody had seen her come aboard. She'd simply appeared in the corridor outside the briefing room 30 minutes ago, carrying a sealed folder and a level 6 security clearance that made the executive officer go pale when he scanned it. Admiral Caldwell Pierce stood at the front of the room, a legend in the Navy's Pacific Fleet. 58 years old and silver-haired, with the kind of weathered face that came from 3 decades at sea. He'd commanded operations from the Persian Gulf to the South China Sea. He'd stared down enemy submarines, navigated diplomatic nightmares, and earned 2 distinguished service medals. He had a reputation for being unflappable, but even he noticed the silence around the woman in the back. Pierce was in the middle of his briefing, explaining the fleet's positioning for an upcoming multinational exercise, when he decided to break the tension. He'd always believed in humor as a tool, a way to cut through the rigidity that sometimes paralyzed military thinking. He pointed toward her casually. "You, the newcomer." The room's attention shifted. 47 pairs of eyes turned toward the back. She didn't flinch, didn't react at all, just met the Admiral's gaze with the kind of steady calm that came from experience, not arrogance. "Haven't seen you before." Pierce continued, a slight smile on his face. "You look pretty calm for someone in a room full of brass." A few officers chuckled, grateful for the break in tension. Commander Derek Stone, the XO, leaned back in his chair with a smirk. Lieutenant Cole Brennan, a SEAL team leader with 8 years in special operations, glanced at the woman with curiosity. Pierce folded his arms, playing to the room now. "So tell me, what's your kill count, 510? You look like you've at least punched somebody in training." The laughter spread, light, easy, the kind of moment that humanized the endless grind of military protocol. Until they saw her expression. She hadn't changed at all. No smile, no acknowledgement of the joke, just that same steady, measuring gaze. Then she stepped forward slowly, her boots silent on the deck. When she spoke, her voice was quiet but carried through the room like a blade cutting silk. "Sir, with respect, my official number is classified." She paused. The room held its breath. "But since you asked as a joke, the unofficial count is 193, confirmed 312 total." The silence that followed was absolute. It was the kind of silence that comes when the air gets sucked out of a space, when reality shifts suddenly and everyone needs a moment to recalibrate. Several officers straightened in their seats. Commander Stone's smirk vanished. Lieutenant Brennan's eyes narrowed, reassessing. A captain in the third row, a surface warfare specialist with 20 years of service, actually leaned forward as if he'd misheard. Admiral Pierce blinked. The smile melted from his face like ice under a blowtorch. His hand, which had been resting casually on the podium, tightened into a fist. 300, he said slowly, suddenly very serious. "And what unit did you say you were with?" The woman placed the sealed folder she'd been holding onto the table in front of her. The sound of it hitting the surface was unnaturally loud. "I didn't say, sir, but it's inside." Pierce moved down from the podium, his earlier humor completely gone. He picked up the folder, noted the government seal, the classification markings that read, "Cosmic Top Secret. Eyes only." His jaw locked. He broke the seal with his thumb and opened it. The first page was a photograph, black and white, high resolution. A woman's face, younger, maybe 28 years old. Dark hair pulled back, sharp features, and a scar, thin but visible, running along the left side of her neck. Pierce looked up at the woman standing in front of him. Same face, same scar. He turned to the second page. A mission brief. Operation Phantom Grave. Jakarta, Indonesia. Date March 2021. Objective neutralize Shadow Syndicate weapons cache. Team size 12 operatives. Status mission compromised. Casualties 11 KIA, 1 IA. Pierce's face stiffened. His pupils narrowed as he scanned the next section. Mission outcome cache destroyed. Secondary objective achieved. 3 mini-submarines targeting USS Reagan eliminated. Explosive yield, 12 tons Semtex. Estimated lives saved 4,000 plus. The Admiral's hands trembled slightly. Not from fear, from something else. Recognition, disbelief. He shut the folder. When he looked at the woman again, his voice had changed completely. No humor, no casual authority. Just the clipped tone of a man who'd suddenly realized he was standing in front of someone from a different world. Everyone out, now. The command was immediate and absolute. Chairs scraped, boots shuffled. Officers stood confused but obedient. Commander Stone hesitated for half a second, glancing between Pierce and the woman, then followed the others out. Lieutenant Brennan was the last to leave his gaze lingering on the mysterious operative before the door sealed shut with a heavy metallic thunk. The room was empty now, just Pierce and the woman. He swallowed hard, set the folder down carefully, took a breath. "Operative Ghost Valkyrie," he said quietly. "I thought you weren't real." She met his eyes without blinking. "I'm real enough. The mission report says 11 dead. You were listed as MIA, presumed KIA. I was never missing, sir. I was extracted. But for operational security, my survival wasn't disclosed." Pierce opened the folder again, turned to page 3. The page she'd mentioned. His eyes scanned the text and his expression shifted through several emotions in rapid succession. Shock, anger, something close to grief. "Jesus Christ," he whispered. The third page contained details that weren't in any official after-action report. Photographs, timestamps, witness statements from intelligence assets embedded in the region, and signatures, black ink signatures from people whose names Pierce knew, names that belonged to the highest levels of command. The Director of National Intelligence, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and someone else, a code name he'd only heard whispered in secure briefings, Cardinal. "Why wasn't I informed?" Pierce asked, his voice tight. "You weren't cleared," she said simply. He sat down slowly. The folder remained open in front of him. He stared at the photographs on page 3. Images of a warehouse in Jakarta engulfed in flames. Bodies in tactical gear, 11 of them laid out in a row. A young woman in the corner of one photo covered in blood and soot, clutching an AN/P RC 152 radio. Her face a mask of exhaustion and something darker. "Then why reveal yourself now?" Pierce asked. She stepped closer, planting both hands on the table. Her voice didn't rise, but the intensity increased. "Because your fleet is about to walk into an ambush, sir. You'll lose 3 destroyers, 1 carrier, and 947 personnel." Pierce's head snapped up. "That's not possible. Your intelligence is good but incomplete. I've been embedded with the Shadow Syndicate for 3 years. I know their plans. I know their capabilities. And I know they're coming for this fleet in 48 hours. The Admiral stared at her, then at the folder, then back at her. "Who are you?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. She straightened. "Lieutenant Commander Evelyn Thorne, formerly CIA Special Activities Division, currently attached to Joint Special Operations Command under Deep Cover Protocols. Call sign Valkyrie." Pierce closed the folder with respect, not authority. "And the kill count you mentioned, 174 with an M24 SWS at ranges between 400 and 1,200 yards, 19 with a Glock 19 in close quarters. Total confirmed by Field Intelligence, 193. Total estimated including secondary explosions and indirect fire, 312. The Admiral took a long breath, let it out slowly. "What do you need from me?" Evelyn Thorne didn't smile, didn't show her relief, just nodded once. 48 hours of operational command, access to SEAL Team 5, full tactical autonomy, and your trust, sir. Pierce stood, extended his hand. "You have it." She shook his hand once firmly. "Then we need to talk about Jakarta, because the man who killed my team is the same man planning to kill yours." No. The briefing that followed was classified at a level most officers would never see. Pierce activated the room's SCIF protocol's electromagnetic shielding that turned the space into an information black hole. No signals in, no signals out, just 2 people and the truth. Evelyn stood at the front of the room now, her posture still relaxed but her eyes sharp. She opened her tablet, pulled up a holographic display that projected onto the wall. Satellite imagery, Intelligence intercepts. Financial transactions traced through shadow networks. March 2021, she began. Jakarta. My team was tasked with neutralizing a shadow syndicate weapons cache. 12 tons of Semtex smuggled from the Czech Republic through Singapore. The syndicate planned to use it in a coordinated attack on U.S. naval assets in the Pacific. Our primary target was the warehouse. Secondary target was 3 mini-submarines North Korean Type 033 diesel electrics retrofitted for special operations. Pierce watched the images flash across the screen. Warehouse schematics, submarine blueprints, photographs of faces, some alive, some not. My team was 12 strong, Evelyn continued, her voice steady but quieter now. Captain Wade Hollis, former Gulf War infantry officer, 52 years old. Experienced, reliable. He let us in. The screen showed a photograph of Hollis, gray-haired, stern expression, the kind of face that had seen too much but kept going anyway. We inserted at 2300 hours. Approach was clean. Intel was solid. We breached the warehouse, secured the Semtex, set the charges. Mission should have been textbook. She paused, took a breath. Then we got hit. The screen changed. Combat footage from a helmet camera, grainy and shaking. Muzzle flashes in the dark. Voices shouting. The sharp crack of AK-47 fire. Ambush, Evelyn said. 40 hostiles, professional, military trained. They knew we were coming. They'd set a trap inside the trap. Pierce leaned forward. How about that? Because they had someone on the inside, not in my team. Someone higher, someone who fed them our operational timeline. The footage continued. Men falling, blood on concrete. Evelyn's voice younger in the recording, shouting coordinates into a radio. We fought for 18 minutes, longest 18 minutes of my life. Captain Hollis took 2 rounds to the chest. Body armor held, but he was down. 3 more of my team were KIA in the first 5 minutes. Then 5 more in the next 10. The screen froze on a single frame. Captain Hollis on his knees, blood seeping through his gear, looking directly at the camera. Looking at Evelyn. He gave me an order, she said quietly. Complete the mission. Whatever the kick does. Pierce said nothing, just watched. I had a choice, Evelyn continued. Try to save my team, drag them out, call for immediate evac, or finish the mission. Detonate the Semtex. Destroy those submarines before they reached the USS Reagan and killed 4,000 sailors. The silence stretched. I chose the mission. The screen showed the explosion. A massive fireball rising into the Jakarta night, visible from orbit. Then nothing, just static. 11 dead, Evelyn said. All because I followed orders. Captain Hollis died 30 seconds after I triggered the charges. The others were already gone. I exfiled alone. Took an AK round here. She touched the scar on her neck. But made it to the extraction point, a Zodiac raft through the Sunda Strait, picked up by a Navy SEAL team 6 hours later. Pierce absorbed this. And the mission? Successful. The Semtex was destroyed. The submarines were obliterated. The syndicate lost its operational capacity in Southeast Asia for 2 years. But they didn't stop. No, sir. They regrouped, and they started hunting the person who'd cost them 12 tons of explosives in a major operation. Woodrow Pierce's eyes narrowed. They've been hunting you. For 3 years, but here's the thing, Admiral. They don't know who I am. They know call sign Valkyrie. They know someone destroyed their Jakarta operation. But they don't have a face, don't have a name. So I gave them one. The screen changed again. A personnel file, but not Evelyn Thorne. A different name, different background, same face was. Meet Sarah Kovac, Evelyn said. Croatian national, former European Special Forces, freelance tactical consultant. 3 years ago, I built this identity and inserted myself into the syndicate's network. Offered my services, became one of their advisors. Pierce's jaw dropped. You've been undercover inside the organization that's trying to kill you. Yes, sir. Best way to track them. Best way to anticipate their moves. Best way to learn their networks. Their funding, their operations. And now, Evelyn's expression hardened. Now they're planning their biggest operation yet. An ambush on your Pacific fleet during the upcoming multinational exercise. They've acquired 4 submarines. Not mini-subs this time. Full-size Type 039, a Yuan-class diesel electrics, Chinese manufacturer sold through shadow networks. They've got 60 underwater demolition experts trained in Russia and Libya, and they're going to hit you in 48 hours. Pierce stood pacing now. Our intelligence hasn't picked up any of this. Because they're using communication methods, your signal's intelligence can't intercept. Dead drops, Courier networks, old school tradecraft. The syndicate learned from Jakarta. They adapted. And you're certain about the timeline. I was in the planning meeting, sir, 3 days ago in Manila. They briefed the operation. I saw the target maps. Your fleet is steaming directly into their kill zone. Pierce ran a hand through his silver hair. We can alter course, change the exercise parameters. They'll adapt. They've got spotters tracking your movements via commercial satellite data. You change course, they'll know within an hour and adjust their positioning. The only way to stop this is to hit them first. How? Evelyn leaned forward. By giving them what they want. Me. Pierce's eyes widened. Absolutely not. That's the only play that works, Evelyn interrupted. They think I'm Sarah Kovac, their advisor. But someone recently sent them an anonymous tip, an intelligence leak suggesting that Sarah Kovac is actually the American operative Valkyrie and that I'm hiding aboard the USS Sentinel under Navy protection. Who sent that tip? I did. Pierce stared at her. You told them where you are. I told them where they think I am. The syndicate believes I'm on the Sentinel, so they'll focus their entire operation on this carrier, hit it with everything they've got, overwhelming force to capture me alive. Which means we evacuate the real USS Sentinel and the rest of the fleet to a safe position 200 nautical miles south. And I take a small team on a Mark V special operations craft broadcasting false communications to make them think the Sentinel is still in position. Pierce processed this. You're using yourself as bait. Yes, sir. That's a suicide mission. Evelyn met his eyes. No, sir. That's the only mission that works. They commit their full force to what they think is the Sentinel. We sink their submarines, eliminate their combat swimmers, and I capture the one person I've been hunting for 3 years. Who? The screen changed one final time. A photograph. A man in his mid-50s gray beard, cold eyes, a scar cutting across his left eyebrow. Military bearing. The look of someone who'd killed more people than most soldiers ever meet. Garrett Ashford. Evelyn said, her voice dropping to something colder. Former CIA Special Activities Division. Former JSOC Task Force Black Operator. 400 confirmed kills over a 20-year career. My instructor from 2016 to 2019. The man who taught me everything I know. Pierce's blood ran cold. Brilliant. Your instructor. Yes, sir. He trained me in advanced marksmanship, survival, evasion, resistance, escape protocols, tactical psychology, and close quarters combat. Best operator I've ever seen. He could shoot a playing card at 600 yards, survive in hostile territory for months without resupply, and plan operations that intelligence analysts said were impossible. And now he's working for the syndicate. He's running the syndicate after the CIA burned him in 2019. What happened? Evelyn's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Memory. Pain. Syria. Black operation. Target was an arms dealer facilitating weapons transfers to Hezbollah. Ashford led the team. Intel was good. Planning was solid, but something went wrong. A drone strike meant for the target's convoy hit a refugee camp instead. 37 civilians dead, including Ashford's wife. Pierce's face went pale. His wife was there. She was an aid worker. Doctors Without Borders. He didn't know she was in the area. Neither did command. It was the worst kind of coincidence. The worst kind of tragedy. And the CIA disavowed the operation, blamed it on faulty intelligence, classified everything. Ashford tried to fight it, tried to get justice for the victims, for his wife. The agency responded by burning him, revoked his clearances, froze his assets, threatened him with prosecution if he talked. He was supposed to disappear, quietly retire into obscurity. But he didn't. No, sir, he disappeared all right, but not quietly. He made contact with every enemy network he'd ever infiltrated, offered his services, his expertise, his knowledge of American operations. Within a year, he'd formed the Shadow Syndicate, a coalition of former intelligence operatives, military contractors, and rogue state actors, all united by one goal: bleed the United States for every mistake it's ever made. Pierce sat down heavily. In Jakarta, Ashford was there. He planned the ambush. He was the one who turned our operation into a massacre. I didn't know it at the time, didn't see him, but after I went undercover, I pieced it together. The tactics, the precision, it had his signature all over it. He killed your team. Yes, sir. And when I'm done, he's going to stand trial for it. For them, for the 947 sailors he's planning to kill, and for every crime he's committed since the agency threw him away. Admiral Pierce looked at the woman standing in front of him. Evelyn Thorne. Valkyrie, 193 confirmed kills, 3 years undercover in enemy territory, and now planning to walk into a trap designed specifically for her. He took a long breath. You have 48 hours, Lieutenant Commander. Operational command is yours. Tell me what you need. Evelyn nodded once. SEAL Team 5, full tactical loadout, Mark 5 special operations craft, and someone who won't question my orders when things get bloody. Brennan, Pierce said immediately. Lieutenant Cole Brennan, 8 years SEAL teams. Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria. He's solid. Good, brief him. Tell him everything. I need someone who understands what's at stake. What about the rest of the fleet? Quietly reposition. Make it look like normal operational adjustments. Nothing that would alert satellite surveillance. The syndicate is watching. Any sudden moves and they'll know something's wrong. Pierce stood, extended his hand again. Bring them down, Thorne. Bring him down and come back alive. She shook his hand. I'll do my best, sir. As she turned to leave, Pierce called after her. Thorne? She stopped, looked back. Your team in Jakarta, he said quietly. Captain Hollis, the others. What would they want you to do? Evelyn was silent for a moment. Then she touched the black bracelet on her wrist, smooth obsidian, that caught no light. Captain Hollis's last words were, complete the mission. That's what I'm doing, sir. For them. For the 947 sailors on your fleet. For every person who's ever trusted me to do the right thing. And if you can't bring Ashford in alive, her eyes hardened, then I make sure he doesn't walk away either. She left the briefing room, the door sealing behind her with a hollow thunk. Admiral Caldwell Pierce stood alone in the SCIF, surrounded by classified documents and the weight of what was coming. Outside, the Pacific stretched endlessly, deceptively calm, hiding depths that could swallow fleets whole. The hunt was on, and somewhere out there in those depths, Garrett Ashford was waiting. Waiting for his best student to make her final move. Waiting for the ghost he'd created to come home. The war room aboard the USS Sentinel was designed for crisis management. 3 walls covered in digital displays showing real-time satellite feeds, sonar tracking communications intercepts. The 4th wall was solid steel, soundproofed, and electromagnetically shielded. When the door sealed shut, the room became a vault. Nothing in, nothing out. Just the operators and their mission. 20 SEAL Team 5 operators stood at attention when Evelyn Thorne entered. They'd been briefed 30 minutes ago by Admiral Pierce himself, told only that they'd be receiving orders from a special operations advisor with level 6 clearance. They didn't know her name, didn't know her background. They only knew she'd arrived with credentials that made their commanding officer go quiet and serious. Lieutenant Cole Brennan stood at the front of the group, 28 years old, 6 feet tall, lean muscle and coiled energy. His eyes were the color of winter steel, the kind of eyes that had seen combat up close and hadn't looked away. 8 years in the teams. Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria. 3 Bronze Stars, 1 with Valor device. A reputation for being calm under fire and ruthless when the situation demanded it. He studied Evelyn as she walked to the front of the room. She moved like water, smooth and efficient, no wasted motion. The black bracelet on her wrist caught his attention for a moment, but he filed it away. Focus on the mission, everything else was noise. Evelyn didn't waste time with introductions. She pulled up a holographic display, and the room's central projector lit up with tactical imagery. The South China Sea, their current position, 4 red markers appearing 200 nautical miles northeast. 4 submarines, she said, her voice carrying through the room with absolute authority. Type 039A UN-class diesel electrics. Chinese manufacture, approximately 3,000 tons displacement crew of 38 per boat. Armed with 18 Yu-3 torpedoes each and possibly C-801 anti-ship missiles. Operational depth 300 meters. Maximum submerged speed 20 knots. The SEALs listened. Some took notes on tactical pads. Others just absorbed their training, kicking in automatically. Each submarine is carrying 15 underwater demolition experts, total of 60 combat swimmers, equipped with Russian-made rebreathers, C4 explosive charges, and suppressed weapons for close quarters work. Their mission is to cripple the Pacific Fleet during the multinational exercise scheduled to begin in 46 hours. One of the SEALs, a chief petty officer with 20 years of service, raised his hand. Ma'am, our intelligence hasn't flagged any submarine activity in this sector. Your signals intelligence can't track them, Evelyn replied. They're using passive sonar, only no active pings. Communications are done through extremely low-frequency transmissions that sound like background ocean noise, and they're being directed by someone who knows exactly how your detection systems work. She pulled up another image. Garrett Ashford's face filled the screen. Former CIA Special Activities Division, former JSOC operator, with 20 years in black operations with over 400 confirmed kills. He's the tactical mastermind behind the Shadow Syndicate, and he's planned this operation specifically to exploit gaps in our defensive perimeter. Brennan's eyes narrowed. You know him. It wasn't a question. Evelyn met his gaze. He trained me, 2016 to 2019. Everything I know about tactical operations I learned from him. The room shifted. Not fear, respect. The SEALs understood mentorship, understood the bond between instructor and student. They also understood what it meant when that bond was broken. 3 years ago, the CIA disavowed him after an operation went wrong in Syria. Civilian casualties. His wife was one of them. The agency buried it, burned him, and expected him to disappear. Instead, he built the syndicate, and now he's coming for this fleet. Evelyn zoomed in on the tactical display. Here's what we know. The syndicate believes I'm aboard the USS Sentinel. They think the Navy is protecting me, so they're going to throw everything they have at this position. 4 submarines, 60 combat swimmers, coordinated torpedo strikes. Their goal is to cripple the carrier and capture me alive. But you won't be on the carrier, Brennan said, understanding clicking into place. No, the carrier and the rest of the fleet will reposition quietly over the next 12 hours. 200 nautical miles south outside the syndicate's operational envelope. Meanwhile, we take a Mark V special operations craft and stay here broadcasting false communications to make them think the Sentinel is still in position. Another SEAL spoke up. That's suicide, ma'am. 4 submarines against 1 patrol boat. It would be, Evelyn agreed, if we were trying to win a stand-up fight, but we're not. We're setting a trap inside their trap. When they surface to deploy their swimmers, we hit them with everything we've got. Mark 48 torpedoes from our own attack submarines positioned 20 miles out. Air support from carrier-based FA-18 CES, and us on the Mark V providing real-time targeting data and eliminating any swimmers who make it past the initial strike. The chief petty officer leaned forward. And Ashford, he'll be on one of those submarines, probably the lead boat. He won't trust this operation to anyone else. When we disable his vessel, I'm going aboard to bring him in. Brennan crossed his arms. Alone? With a team, 4 operators. You included Lieutenant if you're willing. Brennan didn't hesitate. I'm in. 3 other SEALs volunteered immediately. The chief petty officer, a master-at-arms named Rodriguez, a hospital corpsman named Hayes. All veterans, all experienced in maritime operations. Evelyn nodded. Good, we leave in 6 hours. Until then, I need you familiarized with the tactical plan. Every detail, every contingency, because when things go wrong, and they will go wrong, I need operators who can adapt without waiting for orders. She pulled up weapon schematics, HK-416 assault rifles with suppressors, MK-48 light machine guns for sustained fire, Remington 870 MCS shotguns for breaching, M18 Claymore mines for choke points, and something else, a rifle case marked with special handling tags. I'll be using an M24 SWS, Evelyn said. Sniper weapon system 7.62 NATO. Effective range 1,200 yards. I'll be providing overwatch from the Mark V's elevated position while you handle close quarters engagement. Brennan studied the setup. You're confident in that range ocean conditions when moving targets. Evelyn's expression didn't change. 174 confirmed kills with that weapon system. I'm confident. The room went quiet. Not skeptical quiet, impressed quiet. Numbers like that didn't lie. There's one more thing, Evelyn said, her voice dropping slightly. Ashford knows how I think. He trained me, which means he'll anticipate standard tactics. So we're going to do something he won't expect. She zoomed the display to show the Mark V's deck layout. Normally, a boat this size would have 8 to 12 operators maximum. We're putting 20, packed tight, uncomfortable. But when the shooting starts, I want overwhelming firepower in the first 30 seconds. Shock and speed. Hit them so hard they don't have time to adapt. Brennan smiled slightly. The first hint of emotion he'd shown. Aggressive, I like it. Ashford taught me to be aggressive, Evelyn said. But he also taught me to be predictable in my aggression. So we're going to be aggressive in an unpredictable way. Controlled chaos. Make him think he's fighting a different operator. She turned off the display. 6 hours, gentlemen. weapons check, equipment prep, and get some rest. Because once we're out there, there won't be time for second guessing. The SEALs filed out already mentally preparing. Brennan lingered for a moment. You really think you can bring him in alive? He asked quietly. Evelyn looked at him. I have to try. He needs to stand trial. For my team, for the sailors he's planning to kill, for every crime since the agency burned him. If I just kill him, he becomes a martyr to every rogue operative who thinks they've been wronged. And if he doesn't give you a choice, then I make sure he doesn't walk away. Brennan nodded slowly. Fair enough. He turned to leave, then paused. That bracelet, what is it? Evelyn touched the black obsidian band on her wrist. Captain Wade Hollis, my team leader in Jakarta. This was his. He wore it through 2 tours in the Gulf War, said it reminded him that some things survive fire. He didn't survive. No, but what he stood for did. Duty, honor, completing the mission no matter the cost. That's what this is about, Lieutenant. Not revenge, justice. Brennan met her eyes. Then let's make sure you survive long enough to see it done. He left. Evelyn stood alone in the war room, surrounded by tactical displays and the weight of what was coming. She pulled up Ashford's photograph again, studied his face, the scar over his left eye, the cold expression, the look of a man who'd seen too much and stopped caring about anything except his own truth. She'd been his student once, his prized pupil, the one he'd called gifted deadly perfect. In 46 hours, she'd show him what she'd learned since leaving his instruction, and this time the lesson would be his. The armory aboard the USS Sentinel smelled like gun oil and cordite, rows of weapons locked in steel racks, ammunition crates stacked in precise military order. Everything labeled, everything accounted for. The SEAL teams moved through their preparation ritual with practiced efficiency. Weapons disassembled, cleaned, reassembled, magazines loaded, optics zeroed. Every piece of equipment checked 3 times because once wasn't enough and twice was gambling. Evelyn stood at her own station, the M24 SWS, laid out on a padded mat. She'd requested this specific rifle serial number matched to one she'd qualified with during training. Familiar weight, familiar balance. The kind of tool that became an extension of the shooter rather than just equipment. Lieutenant Brennan approached carrying his own HK-416. Mind if I watch Free Country? Evelyn said, not looking up. Her hands moved with mechanical precision. Bolt disassembled, firing pin examined, chamber inspected for any sign of wear or fouling. She'd done this 10,000 times. It was meditation. Focus. Brennan watched in silence for a moment. They're saying you've got 193 confirmed. That true official count is classified. Unofficial is 193. What's the difference? Official count is what gets reported through channels. Unofficial is what actually happened. Sometimes there's overlap. Sometimes there isn't. She reassembled the bolt, tested the action. Smooth, perfect, no resistance. How many with that rifle? Brennan asked. 174. Range, 400 to 1,200 yards. Median was 800. Longest was 1123. Brennan let out a low whistle. 1,100 yards. Wind call on that must have been brutal. 12-knot crosswind from the northeast. Target was moving. I led by 3 body widths and held 1 mil-dot right for wind. Target go down. First shot. Brennan was quiet for a moment. Then Ashford teach you that. Evelyn paused, her hands still on the rifle. He taught me the fundamentals. Breathing, trigger control, wind reading. But the shot was mine. He doesn't get credit for what I became after he stopped being my instructor. Fair enough. She mounted the scope, a Leupold Mark IV with mil-dot reticulation. Looked through it at the far wall, checking eye relief and clarity. Perfect glass. No aberrations. Can I ask you something? Brennan said. You're going to anyway. Why didn't you kill him in Jakarta? If he was there, if he set the ambush, why let him walk away? Evelyn lowered the rifle, met Brennan's eyes. I didn't know he was there. Not until after. I was focused on survival, on completing the mission. By the time I pieced together who'd planned the ambush, he was gone. Ghost in the wind. And now I'm hunting the ghost. And ghosts can't hide forever. She placed the rifle in its case, sealed it, moved to the pistol station where a Glock 19 waited. Same routine. Disassemble, clean, reassemble. Check. Every movement precise. You ever hesitate? Brennan asked. In the moment, when you've got someone in your sights. Evelyn's hands didn't stop moving. Once, Jakarta, I had a shot on one of the ambushers, center mass, easy kill, but he was standing next to a fuel drum. If I took the shot, the explosion might have killed my team leader, Captain Hollis. So I didn't shoot. What happened? The ambusher killed 3 of my team before I found another angle. By then it was too late. You blame yourself. I made a choice. Choices have consequences. That's not blame. That's reality. She loaded the Glock's magazine. 15 rounds, 1 in the chamber. Made it 16. Not standard procedure, but Evelyn Thorne didn't operate on standard procedures. Ashford used to say hesitation is death, she continued. He was right about that, but he was wrong about the solution. He thought the answer was to eliminate hesitation entirely. Turn yourself into a machine. No emotions, no doubts. Just execute the mission. But you disagree. I think emotions make us human, and humans fight better than machines because we understand what we're fighting for. Ashford forgot that. Or maybe he never learned it in the first place. Brennan holstered his own sidearm. You think you can beat him? I don't know. He's got 20 more years of experience. 400 kills to my 193. He's smarter, faster, more ruthless. Then how do you win? Evelyn looked at him. By being something he didn't teach me to be. Unpredictable. Human. Someone who fights for more than just the mission. You fight for your team. I fight for the 947 sailors on this fleet who don't even know they're in danger. I fight for Captain Hollis and the 11 operators who died in Jakarta. I fight because someone has to, and I'm the one who's here. Brennan nodded slowly. That's a good answer. It's the only answer I've got. They finished their preparations in silence. Around them, the other SEALs did the same. 20 operators, 1 mission, 46 hours until contact. The Mark V Special Operations craft sat low in the water, 82 feet of matte, black composite armor and diesel engines. Built for speed and stealth, it could hit 50 knots in calm seas and operate in conditions that would swamp conventional patrol boats. The deck was cramped, designed for a crew of 5 and maybe 8 passengers in a pinch. Evelyn Thorne was putting 20 operators on it. This is insane, the boat's coxswain muttered, watching the SEALs file aboard with their equipment. We're going to be packed like sardines. That's the idea, Evelyn said. She stood on the dock, watching the loadout. Each operator carried 80 pounds of gear, weapons, ammunition, demolitions, communications equipment, medical supplies, everything they'd need for a fight with no resupply. Admiral Pierce approached, his expression grim. The fleet's repositioning now. Should be clear of the operational area in 8 hours. Good. We'll maintain position and start broadcasting false comms at 2200 hours. Make it sound like standard patrol chatter. Nothing that would alert suspicion. And if they don't take the bait, they'll take it. Ashford thinks I'm here. He's been hunting me for 3 years. He won't pass up this chance. Pierce handed her a satellite phone. Direct line to me. If things go south, I can have air support on station in 12 minutes. Appreciated, sir. But if things go south, 12 minutes might as well be 12 hours. I know. Pierce looked at the Mark V at the operators preparing for a mission that shouldn't be possible. Thorne, if this doesn't work, if you can't stop them, the fleet's still in danger. We'd need to abort the exercise entirely. That's a diplomatic nightmare with our allies. It'll work, sir. You sound certain. I am, because failure isn't an option. It never has been. Pierce studied her for a moment, then nodded. Good hunting, Lieutenant Commander. Thank you, sir. She boarded the Mark V. The deck was exactly as cramped as promised. 20 operators in a space meant for 8. But they made it work, every man finding his position, securing his gear, preparing mentally for what was coming. Brennan had taken position near the aft gun mount, an M2 Browning 50 caliber machine gun that could chew through light armor at 2,000 yards. He checked the feed mechanism that traversed the elevation controls. Everything smooth. Evelyn climbed to the elevated sniper position, a small platform behind the bridge that gave her a 360-degree field of fire. She set up the M24, checking sight lines, calculating range cards for various engagement distances. The ocean stretched out in every direction, dark blue under the afternoon sun. Comms check, she said into her tactical radio. Copy, Valkyrie, Brennan responded. All teams report ready. Engines online, the coxswain called from the bridge. Ready to cast off on your order, ma'am. Evelyn took one last look at the USS Sentinel. The carrier looked invincible, a city of steel floating on the water. But she knew better. Every ship had vulnerabilities. Every defense had gaps. And Garrett Ashford knew them all. Cast off, she ordered. Let's go hunting. The Mark V's engines rumbled to life. Lines were released. The boat pulled away from the dock, turning northeast, heading toward the position where 4 submarines waited in the dark water, where Garrett Ashford waited, where everything Evelyn Thorne had learned, everything she'd survived, would be tested against the man who'd made her into a weapon. The sun was setting now, painting the ocean in shades of red and gold. Beautiful, deceptive, hiding the depth and danger beneath. Evelyn chambered around in the M24. The metallic click was quiet but final. She thought of Captain Hollis, of the 11 operators who'd died in Jakarta, of the 947 sailors depending on her to stop what was coming. She touched the black bracelet on her wrist. Some things survive fire. 44 hours, she whispered to herself. And then we find out who taught who better. The Mark V cut through the water, leaving a white wake that disappeared almost immediately. Behind them, the fleet began its quiet repositioning. Ahead in the dark depths, 4 submarines moved into attack formation. The trap was set. Both sides thought they were the hunter. Only one would be right. Night fell over the South China Sea like a curtain. No moon, cloud cover blocking the stars. The kind of darkness that made distance meaningless and turned the ocean into an endless void. Perfect conditions for submarine operations. Terrible conditions for surface vessels. Evelyn Thorne stood at her sniper position, night vision goggles turning the world into shades of green. The M24 was loaded, safety off, ready. Around her, the SEAL teams maintained absolute noise discipline. No unnecessary movement, no chatter, just breathing and the low thrum of the Mark V's engines running at minimal speed. Sonar contact, the coxswain's voice crackled over the radio. Bearing 045, range approximately 12,000 yards. Single vessel submerged, running silent. Confirmed submarine, Evelyn asked. Negative visual, but the acoustic signature matches diesel-electric. Could be one of the UN's. Evelyn checked her tactical display. 12,000 yards. Just over 6 nautical miles. The submarine was positioning. Probably running a periscope sweep, checking surface traffic, confirming the target. Maintain current heading, she ordered. Continue broadcasting false comms. Make them think we're the real sentinel. Brennan moved up beside her, his own night vision in place. They'll figure it out eventually, probably already suspect something's wrong. Doesn't matter, Ashford won't abort. He's committed. This is his chance to capture me, and he knows it might not come again. You sound like you know him pretty well. I do. 3 years as his student. I know how he thinks, how he plans. He's aggressive but calculated. He'll wait until he has overwhelming advantage, then strike with everything at once. And we counter by being where he doesn't expect. Exactly. Another sonar contact. Then another. The tactical display lit up with red markers. 4 submarines all converging on the Mark V's position from different vectors. North, northeast, east, southeast. Classic Wolfpack tactics. Surround the target, cut off escape routes, then strike simultaneously. All contacts confirmed, the coxswain reported. Type 039A UN class. 4 vessels. They're surfacing. Evelyn's pulse didn't change. Years of training, years of combat had taught her to control her physiological responses. Fear was useful. Panic was death. Combat swimmers deploying at a SEAL spotter called out, count 15 per submarine, total 60 in the water. 60 combat swimmers. All trained, all armed, all converging on a single target. The Mark V. Here we go, Evelyn said quietly. She settled into her shooting position, cheek pressed against the M24's stock, breathing slow and steady. Through the scope, even with night vision, the swimmers were barely visible. Dark shapes moving through darker water. Range to nearest contact, she asked. 800 yards in closing. Perfect range, Evelyn's comfort zone. She found her first target, a swimmer 50 yards ahead of the main group, probably a scout. She calculated wind minimal at this hour. Calculated drop 7.62 NATO at 800 yards meant approximately 8 feet of bullet drop. Adjusted her aim point, held her breath, squeezed the trigger. The M24 kicked against her shoulder. Suppressed the shot was quieter than normal, a sharp crack rather than a boom. Through the scope, she saw the swimmer jerk and go still in the water. Contact, she said calmly, and 1 down. She cycled the bolt, found her next target, another scout 700 yards out. Same process. Breathe, calculate, aim, fire. Another hit. 2 down. The combat swimmers had noticed now. They were diving, trying to get below the surface where rifle fire couldn't reach them. But Evelyn was faster. 3 more shots. 3 more hits. 5 swimmers down in less than 30 seconds. Jesus, Brennan muttered. You weren't kidding about the confirmed kills. Save the compliments for after, Evelyn said, already acquiring her next target. The submarines were fully surfaced, now their conning towers breaking the water like the backs of metallic whales. Hatches opened, more swimmers deployed, and something else. Crew members manning deck guns. Incoming fire, someone shouted. 23mm rounds tore through the air, tracer fire turning the night into a light show. The Mark V's armor held but barely. Return fire erupted from every SEAL position. The M2 Browning opened up Brennan walking fire across the nearest submarine's deck. Bodies fell, metal sparked where 50 caliber rounds punched through. Evelyn ignored the chaos, focused on her sector, found a swimmer with a shaped charge, clearly planning to attach it to the Mark V's hull. 850 yards. Difficult shot with a moving boat under her. She compensated for the roll, led the target by 2 body widths. Fired. Hit. The shaped charge exploded prematurely, taking 3 nearby swimmers with it. Secondary explosion. Fire on the water. Direct hit on Submarine 2, the coxswain reported. Our attack subs just put a Mark 48 into their engine room. She's going down, 1 submarine destroyed, 3 to go, but the remaining combat swimmers were closing now. Less than 200 yards. Too close for rifle work. Time for the SEALs to earn their pay. All teams engage targets, Evelyn ordered. The deck of the Mark V erupted in controlled violence. HK-416S on full auto muzzle flashes, lighting up the darkness. Swimmers went down by the dozen. Some returned fire with suppressed weapons rounds, pinging off the boat's armor. 1 SEAL took a hit in the shoulder body armor holding, but the impact knocked him back. Hayes the corpsman was on him immediately. Your good armor held. Get back in the fight. The wounded SEAL grabbed his rifle and kept shooting. Evelyn switched to her Glock 19, engaging swimmers who'd made it to within 50 yards. Headshots at that range, even in darkness, even with moving targets. Training. Muscle memory. 19 kills with this exact weapon. Soon to be more. Submarine 3 is flooding, the coxswain shouted. Another torpedo hit. She's listing. 2 down, 2 to go, but the remaining submarines weren't retreating. They were closing. And on the lead submarine's conning tower, Evelyn saw a figure. Tall, gray beard even in the night vision. Moving with the confidence of someone who'd been in 1,000 firefights and survived them all. Garrett Ashford. Target acquired, Evelyn said into her radio. Main objective identified. Lead submarine conning tower. She brought the M24 back up. Found Ashford in her scope. He was directing his forces, pointing shouting orders that she couldn't hear over the gunfire. 600 yards. An easy shot. She centered the crosshairs on his chest. Breathe. Calculate. Hold. But she didn't fire, because Ashford was looking directly at her. Even at 600 yards, even through night vision and scope magnification, she could see his expression. He was smiling. He knew she was there. Knew she had him in her sights. And he was smiling. Come on, Eve. His voice crackled over an open radio channel. You didn't think I'd make it that easy, did you? Before she could respond, though, water around the Mark V exploded. Not torpedoes. Demolition charges. The swimmers who'd gotten through had attached them to the hull. The boat lurched violently. Evelyn nearly lost her footing, catching herself on the railing. Alarms blared. Water rushed in through a breach in the aft compartment. We're taking on water, the coxswain reported. Engine room compromised. We're dead in the water, Ashford's voice again calm and measured. Lesson 14, Eve, always have a backup plan. You taught me that. Oh, wait, I taught you that. The remaining submarines surfaced fully. More swimmers in the water. More deck guns opening fire. The Mark V was crippled. Surrounded. Outgunned. Brennan appeared at Evelyn's sweaty, bleeding from a cut above his eye. We need to abandon ship. This boat's going down. Evelyn looked at the lead submarine. At Ashford. He waved, actually waved at her, and she made her decision. Negative, she said. We're boarding that submarine. All teams prepare for assault. Brennan stared at her. That's suicide. It's the mission. Ashford's on that boat. I'm taking him. She didn't wait for a response. Just grabbed her gear and dove into the water. Behind her, the SEALs followed without hesitation. Because that's what operators did. They followed their commander into hell. And if Garrett Ashford wanted a final lesson, Evelyn Thorne was about to teach him one. The hard way. The water was cold. Not freezing, but cold enough to shock the system, to force every muscle to work harder just to maintain body temperature. Evelyn Thorne kicked hard, propelling herself through the dark Pacific toward the lead submarine. Behind her, 8 SEALs followed, weapons held above water, night vision still functional despite the spray. The Mark V was sinking behind them, its hull breached in 3 places, listing heavily to starboard. Smoke poured from the engine compartment. The remaining SEALs who'd stayed aboard were providing covering fire, keeping the syndicate swimmers occupied while Evelyn's assault team made their approach. "Chief," Evelyn had shouted before diving, "you've got 2 minutes before this boat goes under. Provide covering fire, then abandon ship and extract South Mark. 5 Zodiac rafts, rendezvous coordinates, Sierra 7. The chief had nodded, already moving. "Copy. 2 minutes covering fire, then we're gone." Now swimming through hostile watchhitters with 60 enemy combatants nearby, Evelyn focused on the only thing that mattered: the submarine and the man aboard it. 200 yards to target. Might as well have been 2 miles. Tracer fire cut across the water. Evelyn dove, felt rounds passing overhead, the distinctive crack of supersonic bullets breaking the surface tension. She stayed under for 30 seconds, lungs burning, then surfaced just long enough to grab air and reorient. The submarine was closer now, 150 yards. Lieutenant Brennan surfaced beside her, coughing water. "This is the worst idea you've ever had." "Noted," Evelyn shouted back over the gunfire. "Keep moving." They swam, hard fast, zigzagging to avoid becoming stationary targets. Behind them, one of the SEALs took a hit. Rodriguez, the master at arms. He grunted, kept swimming, but Evelyn could see blood spreading in the water. Dark red against darker black. "Hayes," she called. "Rodriguez is hit." The corpsman was there in seconds, grabbing Rodriguez, keeping him afloat. "Through and through, he's good, keep going." 100 yards. Behind them, the Mark V's remaining crew were abandoning ship, 8 SEALs piling into inflatable Zodiacs as the patrol boat listed 45 degrees and began its final plunge. The covering fire had stopped. They were on their own now. Evelyn reached the submarine's hull, pressed her body against the cold metal. Brennan was beside her a moment later, then Hayes dragging Rodriguez, then the other 5 SEALs. All accounted for. All alive, if barely. "Breach point," Evelyn said, pointing up at a forward hatch. "Closed, but that's what breaching charges were for. Hayes, Rodriguez, stay here. Provide security. Everyone else on me." She pulled herself up the submarine's hull using the maintenance rungs built into the side. Her arms burned from the swim from hauling herself and 80 pounds of gear. But pain was just information. It told you that you were still alive. She could work with alive. The hatch was secured with a simple lever lock. Soviet-era design, the UNs were based on Russian Kilo-class submarines. Evelyn had studied the blueprints during her time undercover. She knew every inch of these boats. She placed a small breaching charge, just enough to blow the lock without alerting everyone inside. Backed away, signaled the SEALs. 3, 2, 1. The charge detonated with a muffled crack. The hatch popped open, smoke curling out. Evelyn was through in a heartbeat, Glock 19 up and ready. The interior was cramped pipes and machinery everywhere, red emergency lighting, casting everything in bloody shadows. A syndicate operative was standing 3 feet away, shocked, reaching for his weapon. Evelyn shot him twice. Center mass, he went down. Brennan came through behind her, then the others. They moved like water, flowing through cracks, smooth and fast. The submarine's interior was a maze of corridors and compartments, but Evelyn had memorized the layout. Command center was amidships, 1 level up, where Ashford would be. They encountered 3 more hostiles in the first corridor. Short, brutal engagement. Suppressed weapons in close quarters. The syndicate operatives went down before they could raise an alarm. But alarms would come soon enough. You couldn't board a submarine and not be noticed. "Command center," Evelyn said, moving forward. "Brennan, take 2 and secure engineering. I don't want this boat diving while we're aboard." "Copy," Brennan said, peeling off with 2 SEALs. Evelyn continued forward with the remaining 3 operators. They reached a ladder leading up to the next level. She climbed, fast weapon ready, emerged into a wider corridor. More red lighting, more pipes and voices. Russian, Chinese, English. The command center was 20 feet ahead. Heavy door, probably sealed from inside. She could hear orders being shouted, could hear the submarine's engines changing pitch. They were preparing to dive. "Breach the door," she ordered. "Flashbangs first, then we go in hard." One of the SEALs placed charges on the door's hinges. Another readied a flashbang grenade. Evelyn took position to the left of the door, weapon up. Her heart rate was steady, 70 beats per minute. Training and experience overriding adrenaline. This was just another door. Another room, another mission. "Execute," she said. The charges blew. The door fell inward. The SEAL tossed the flashbang. Evelyn counted. 1, 2, 3. The grenade detonated with a concussive blast and a pulse of blinding white light. They went in shooting. The command center was caved. 15 people, maybe 20. Syndicate operatives, submarine crew, all stunned by the flashbang, reaching for weapons, trying to understand what was happening. Evelyn engaged the nearest threats. Double taps. Controlled fire. The SEALs beside her did the same. The room filled with the sharp crack of suppressed gunfire and the smell of cordite. 10 seconds. That's how long it took to neutralize the immediate threats. 10 seconds of controlled violence that left 12 hostiles dead or incapacitated. And in the center of the room, standing calmly behind a command console, was Garrett Ashford. He looked exactly like his photographs. Mid-50s gray beard, cold eyes, a scar cutting across his left eyebrow. Military bearing. The look of someone who'd killed more people than most soldiers ever meet. But the photographs didn't capture the presence. The way he occupied space. The absolute confidence that radiated from him like heat from a fire. He was wearing tactical gear, a sidearm on his hip, but he hadn't drawn it. Just stood there watching Evelyn with something that looked almost like satisfaction. Ashford turned slowly from the command console. When he saw her face clearly for the first time in 5 years, his expression shifted. Recognition, confirmation, and something darker. "So it's true," he said quietly, his voice cutting through the ringing in everyone's ears from the flashbang. "When the tip came in about Sarah Kovac being the American ghost, I calculated it was 60% probability. You covered your tracks well. The accent, the background story, the Croatian military records we verified." He shook his head slowly, almost admiringly. "But I knew. Deep down I knew. Because only one person could have survived Jakarta the way Valkyrie did. Only one person I trained could have infiltrated my organization for 3 years without being detected." His lips curved into something cold and satisfied. "Hello, Eve," he continued as if they were meeting for coffee instead of standing in a war zone. "I was wondering when you'd come aboard." Evelyn kept her weapon trained on his chest. Her finger rested on the trigger, not in it. Discipline. Control. "Garrett Ashford, you're under arrest for treason, terrorism, and the murder of 11 American service members. Get on your knees, hands behind your head." Ashford didn't move, just tilted his head slightly. "Is that any way to greet your old instructor? I taught you better manners than that." "On your knees." He still didn't comply, just stood there studying her like a scientist examining an interesting specimen. "You know I'm genuinely proud of you. 3 years undercover. Building a false identity. Infiltrating my organization. That takes patience. Dedication. I taught you well. You taught me how to kill. Captain Hollis taught me why." Ashford's expression darkened slightly. "Ah, yes, Hollis, the Gulf War hero, 58 years old, 2 tours, 3 Bronze Stars. I remember him from the Jakarta briefing. He was the one who died first, wasn't he? Took 2 rounds to the chest. Body armor held, but the impact broke 3 ribs. He bled out internally while you finished the mission." Evelyn's finger moved to the trigger. The muscles in her jaw tightened, but she maintained control. That's what separated her from Ashford. Control. "You killed my team," she said quietly, each word measured. "You set the ambush. You murdered 11 operators who trusted their intelligence was solid. I did what I was paid to do, just like you're doing what you're paid to do. We're not so different, Eve. We're nothing alike. Aren't we? You've killed 193 people. I've killed 400. We're both weapons, both tools used by governments that will discard us the moment we become inconvenient. The only difference is, I realized it first. The difference is, I still believe in something beyond myself." Ashford let out a bitter sound, half laugh, half snarl. "You believe in what? The flag, the mission, duty, and honor." He shook his head. "Those are just words they use to control you. I believed in those words once. Look where it got me. My wife dead in a Syrian refugee camp because some analyst misread a satellite photo. And when I demanded answers, demanded justice, the CIA burned me, froze my accounts, threatened my life. That's what your precious duty and honor gets you. So you became a terrorist. I became free, and I built something real. An organization of operators who weren't slaves to flags or politics. We work for ourselves, for each other. That's more honor than any government ever showed me." Evelyn lowered her weapon slightly. Not much, just enough to show she was listening. "Then surrender. Stand trial. Tell your story. Let the world hear what happened. And you think they'd let me speak? They'd put me in a box, bury the story, protect the people who made the decisions that got my wife killed." He shook his head. "No, Eve. The only justice I'll get is the justice I take. That's not justice. That's revenge. What's the difference? Justice has limits. Revenge doesn't. You were willing to kill 947 sailors to get at me. That's not fighting the system. That's becoming worse than the system. Ashford's expression hardened. Those 947 sailors serve the same government that murdered my wife. They're complicit. They're people, with families, with lives, just like your wife. My wife was innocent. So are they. The command center was silent now except for the low hum of machinery. The remaining conscious hostiles were secured, cable-tied, watched by the SEALs. It was just Evelyn and Ashford, student and teacher, weapon and weapon maker. The words hung in the air between them. Heavy, final. I came here to bring you in at the, Evelyn said, her voice dropping to something colder. To make sure you stand trial. To make sure the truth comes out about Jakarta, about the syndicate, about everything you've done. That's what Captain Hollis would have wanted. Justice, not revenge. Hollis was a fool. Hollis was a better man than either of us will ever be. He died following orders, protecting his team, completing the mission. That's honor. Real honor, not your twisted version of it. Ashford studied her for a long moment. Something flickered in his eyes. Not regret, not quite, but recognition, perhaps, of the line he'd crossed that she hadn't. Then he reached for his sidearm. Evelyn's shot was faster. She'd been waiting for it, had seen the micro-expression shift in his face a half-second before he moved. The Glock barked once. The round hit Ashford's right hand, shattered the metacarpal bones, sent his weapon spinning across the deck. He cried out, grabbed his ruined hand, dropped to one knee. Blood dripped between his fingers. Dark red on gray metal. I said on your knees, Evelyn said, her voice flat and cold. I didn't say anything about keeping your hand intact. Brennan appeared in the doorway behind her, slightly out of breath. Engineering secured. Boat's not going anywhere. Good. Secure the prisoner. Get a corpsman in here to treat his hand. Brennan moved forward with cable ties. But as he reached for Ashford, the older man looked up at Evelyn, blood dripping from his shattered hand, and something changed in his expression. Not a smile, something grimmer. You think you won, he said quietly. His voice strained with pain but still controlled. You think stopping me here means anything? It means 947 sailors go home alive. The words hit Evelyn like a physical blow. Her mind raced through the tactical implications. The timing, the resources committed. 4 submarines, 60 operators, all for a faint number not possible. Unless, her hand instinctively went to her satellite phone, but she forced herself to stop. Don't let him see the fear. Don't let him know he landed the hit. Bullshit, she said, voice steady despite the ice forming in her chest. You wouldn't commit 4 submarines and 60 operators to a distraction. I would if it kept you busy, if it kept American intelligence focused on the South China Sea while the real operation happened somewhere else. Brennan grabbed Ashford by the shoulder, yanked him back. Where what operation? Ashford's lips curved again. Blood on his teeth now from biting through the pain. Check the time. It's 03:30. The operation started 30 minutes ago. Evelyn's hands moved before her mind caught up. Satellite phone out. Admiral Pierce on speed dial. It rang once, twice. Each ring felt like an eternity. 3 times. Pierce answered. His voice was tight, stressed, wrong. Thorne, we have a situation. The ice in her chest spread to her limbs. She forced herself to breathe. Talk to me. Naval Base San Diego. Explosion at Pier 2. Multiple casualties. 3 ships damaged. We're still assessing, but initial reports say 14 dead, 40 wounded. The world tilted slightly. Evelyn's vision narrowed to a tunnel. 14 dead. The number burned into her consciousness like a brand. When her voice sounded distant even to her own ears. 2300 hours local time. About 30 minutes ago. She looked at Ashford. He was still on his knees, still bleeding, but watching her with those cold, calculating eyes. Watching her process it. Watching her realize. You son of a bitch, she whispered. Lesson 27, Ashford said, each word precise despite the pain. The best misdirection is making them think they figured out your plan. You thought you were hunting me. You thought you stopped my operation. You did, just not the one that mattered. Evelyn's hand tightened on the phone. Every instinct screamed at her to shoot him, to empty her magazine into his chest and watch him die. But that would make her like him. That would mean he'd won. Pierce, I need casualty names, she said into the phone, her voice mechanical now. Professional, the only way to stay functional. Stand by. Paper rustling. voices in the background, the sounds of a crisis unfolding in real time. Then Pierce came back on. Personnel killed in action, 3 Navy, 2 Marines, 9 civilians. The civilians were dock workers, family members visiting. Wrong place, wrong time. 9 civilians. Evelyn repeated the words tasting like ash. Including children. A pause. Too long. 2 children, ages 6 and 8, brother and sister. They were visiting their father for his birthday. He was one of the dock workers. He survived. They didn't. Evelyn closed her eyes, tried to breathe. Couldn't. The air in the command center felt too thick, too heavy. She saw them in her mind, 6 and 8, children who'd woken up that morning excited to see their father, who'd never wake up again. You can't save everyone, Eve, Ashford said quietly, almost gently. That's the lesson I never taught you. That's the truth they don't tell you in training. You can be the best operator in the world, have perfect intelligence, execute flawlessly, and people will still die. The only difference is whether you let it destroy you or accept it as the cost of the mission. Evelyn opened her eyes, looked at him, really looked at him, saw what he'd become, a man so broken by loss that he'd decided to break everyone else, a weapon that had forgotten it was supposed to protect. The difference, she said slowly, each word carrying the weight of everything she'd learned, everything Hollis had taught her, is I'll keep trying to save people. You stopped trying. You decided that because you lost someone, everyone else deserved to lose too. That's what makes us different. That's what makes you a terrorist instead of a soldier. She turned to Brennan. Get him out of my sight. And if he says another word, gag him. Brennan hauled Ashford to his feet, started dragging him toward the door. But Ashford managed one last look back at Evelyn, blood still dripping from his ruined hand. You're still my best student, he said, even when you're trying to be better than what I taught you. Maybe especially then. Then he was gone. Secured. Captured. The mission objective achieved. But 14 people were dead, 2 of them children, and victory felt like failure anyway. The submarine surfaced fully an hour later, escorted by 3 Navy destroyers that had repositioned from the southern safe zone. Dawn was breaking, painting the Pacific in shades of red and gold. Beautiful. Deceptive. The kind of sunrise that made you forget the darkness that had come before. Evelyn stood on the submarine's deck, watching the colors spread across the sky. Her shoulder ached where Hayes had bandaged the graze she hadn't noticed during the fight. Her hands were steady, but only because she was forcing them to be. Hayes approached with a medical kit, his expression professionally neutral. Ma'am, you should get that looked at properly when we're back aboard the Sentinel. I'm fine, Evelyn said automatically. With respect, ma'am, you're not fine. None of us are. But the wound just needs monitoring. She nodded, didn't argue. What was the point? How's Rodriguez, she asked, because focusing on others was easier than focusing on herself. He'll live, through and through like I said. Miss the bone, he's already complaining about the paperwork. Hayes paused. Ma'am, those people in San Diego? That's not on you. You stopped the fleet attack, saved 947 lives. That's a win. Tell that to the families of the 14 who died. They'd tell you the same thing I am, that you did your that you can't be everywhere at once, that the enemy gets a vote. Evelyn touched the black bracelet on her wrist, Captain Hollis's bracelet, the obsidian band that had survived Gulf War fire and Jakarta's explosion, and 3 years on her wrist. Some things survive fire, but some things don't. Some things burn, and you carry the ashes forever. Admiral Pierce arrived via helicopter 2 hours later, landed on the destroyer USS Mustin, then took a small boat to the captured submarine. He climbed aboard, carefully moving with the practiced ease of someone who'd spent 40 years at sea, found Evelyn standing at the bow, still watching the water. Lieutenant Commander Thorne, he said formally. Sir, I've read the preliminary reports. 4 submarines neutralized, 63 hostiles KIA, Garrett Ashford captured alive, 8 friendly wounded, 0 KIA. The Mark V was lost, but the crew evacuated successfully. By any tactical measure, this was a significant victory. In San Diego, Pierce's expression darkened. He moved to stand beside her, looking out at the same water. 14 dead, 40 wounded, 3 ships damaged but salvageable. Could have been worse. The attackers were syndicate operatives embedded as civilian contractors. They'd been working on the base for 6 months. Background checks didn't flag them. They hit during a shift change when security was lightest. It was a well-planned operation. My fault, I should have anticipated a secondary target. You anticipated what you could with the intelligence available. Ashford played a deep game. He's been doing this for 20 years. He's good at deception, at misdirection. But you were better. You caught him. Not fast enough. Pierce was quiet for a moment. Then, I need you to understand something, and I'm saying this as someone who's commanded operations that went wrong. This was a victory. Messy, painful, but a victory. You saved the fleet. You captured a high-value target who's been wanted for 3 years. You prevented what could have been a catastrophic loss of American and Allied lives. 14 people died. 2 of them were children. 14 people died because Garrett Ashford ordered their deaths, not because you failed to stop him. There's a difference, a crucial difference. Pierce turned to face her. If you'd ignored the fleet threat and focused on San Diego, 947 sailors would be dead instead. Ashford created a no-win scenario. You chose the option that saved the most lives. That's not failure. That's command. Evelyn was quiet, processing. The words made sense intellectually, but emotionally they felt hollow. What happens now? She asked finally. Pierce pulled out a folder, handed it to her. Ashford goes to a black site first. Extended interrogation. We'll extract every piece of intelligence about the syndicate we can get. Names, locations, operations, financial networks. Then he stands trial. Military tribunal closed proceedings for national security, but it'll be by the book. Justice, not revenge. How long? Interrogation 3 to 6 months. Trial another 6 months to a year. Then ADX Florence. Life imprisonment, no possibility of parole. And me, Pierce gestured to the folder. Pentagon wants you to lead a new unit, Ghost Protocol. 12 operators handpicked from SEAL Delta and CIA Special Activities, specializing in counter-syndicate operations. You'd have full tactical autonomy, your own budget, direct reporting to JSOC. Everything you need to hunt the rest of Ashford's network. Evelyn opened the folder, saw the mission brief, saw the scope of what they were asking. A lifetime of hunting, a lifetime of killing, a lifetime of trying to stop people like Ashford before they hurt anyone else. I need to think about it, she said. Take your time. You've earned it. 30 days leave, then report to the Pentagon for briefing. You can give your answer then. Pierce turned to leave, then paused. Thorne, off the record. Hollis was right about you. You're the kind of operator who sees the mission and the people, who understands that tactics matter, but so do the souls standing next to you. Don't lose that. The world needs more operators like you, not more like Ashford. He left. Evelyn stayed on the deck as the submarine was prepared for towing back to base. Around her, the SEALs were being evacuated, taken back to the fleet for debriefing and medical checks. Rodriguez was laughing about something despite his wound. Hayes was probably calling him an idiot. Brennan was coordinating evidence collection, making sure every piece of intelligence was properly secured. Normal military operations, the machine continuing to turn, life going on. Evelyn's satellite phone buzzed. For a moment, she considered ignoring it. Then she looked at the screen. Text message, unknown number. She almost deleted it, but something made her open it instead. The message was simple. You did good. H. Captain Hollis. Impossible. Hollis was dead. 3 years dead. Buried at Arlington with full military honors. She'd been at the funeral, had saluted his flag-draped coffin, had watched them fold the flag and present it to his sister. But the message was there. Real. On her screen. Evelyn stared at it for a long moment. Then understanding clicked into place. Not Hollis. Someone who knew about Hollis. Someone with access to classified files. Someone who wanted her to know she'd honored his memory. She looked up. Across the deck on the destroyer, Mustin Admiral Pierce was visible through binoculars. He was watching her. When their eyes met across the distance, he didn't smile, didn't nod, just turned and walked away. The message hadn't been from Hollis, but it had been from someone who understood what Hollis meant to her, what his last words had meant. Complete the mission. She had, imperfectly, with cost, but she had, and maybe that had to be enough. 3 weeks later, Naval Base San Diego held a memorial service for the 14 killed in the attack. Full military honors. 21-gun salute that echoed across the harbor. Taps played by a lone bugler, the notes carrying across water that reflected a cloudless sky. Flag-draped coffins for the service members. White caskets for the children. Evelyn Thorne stood in the back wearing her dress uniform. The Navy Cross was there now, newly awarded for the submarine operation. But she barely noticed it. Just stared at the 2 small white caskets. Emma Chen, age 8, David Chin, age 6. Their father was in the front row being held up by family members, his face a mask of grief that would never fully heal. After the ceremony, after the families had left, Evelyn approached the memorial wall that had been erected at Pier 2. Temporary now, but there were plans to make it permanent. Photographs of the 14. Flowers. Letters from loved ones. Teddy bears and toy cars for the children. She stood there for a long time not knowing what to say, not knowing if words even mattered. What could you say to the dead? What comfort could you offer? Finally, she reached up and removed the black bracelet from her wrist. Captain Hollis's bracelet, the obsidian band that had been with her through everything. 3 years of undercover work, the submarine fight, every operation since Jakarta. She placed it carefully at the base of the memorial, gently, with respect. "I'm sorry I couldn't save everyone," she whispered. The words felt inadequate, hollow, but they were all she had. "But I promise I'll keep trying. I won't stop. I won't become what Ashford became. I'll keep fighting for people who can't fight for themselves. That's what Captain Hollis would have wanted. That's what you deserved." Footsteps approached from behind. She didn't turn. Knew who it was from the slight limp legacy of shrapnel in the leg. "Heard you took the Ghost Protocol job," Lieutenant Brennan said quietly. "I did." "Good. You'll need a second in command. I'm volunteering." Evelyn turned to face him. He was in dress uniform, 2 ribbons and medals earned over 8 years in the teams. His expression was serious, committed. "It's going to be dangerous," she said. "Long deployments, high operational tempo. We'll be hunting the most dangerous operators on the planet. People trained by CIA, FSB, Mossad. People who know how to disappear. Casualty rates for this kind of unit run 30% over 5 years." "I know. That's why I'm volunteering. Because someone has to. And it might as well be people who know what they're doing. People who give a damn." She almost smiled. Almost. "You're an idiot, Brennan. Been called worse by better people. So when do we start?" 2 months. Pentagon's setting up the training facility at Harvey Point. We'll select the rest of the team from volunteers. 12 operators total. Mixed specialties, mixed backgrounds, best of the best. And the mission, hunt every syndicate cell on the planet. Dismantle the network Ashford built piece by piece. Make sure no one else dies because we were looking the wrong direction. Brennan nodded slowly. "That's a good mission." Hollis would approve. Yeah, he would. They stood in silence for a moment, 2 operators at a memorial for people they tried to save and couldn't. But failure wasn't the end, it was just information. Data to learn from, mistakes to never repeat. A young woman approached hesitantly. Mid-20s, civilian clothes, red eyes from crying. She looked at Evelyn's uniform at the Navy Cross, then at the bracelet at the memorial base. "Are you the one who stopped the other attack?" she asked quietly. "The one on the fleet," Evelyn didn't know how to answer. "I was part of the operation, yes. My brother was on the USS's Sentinel, Engineering Division. He said they didn't even know they were in danger until after. Said someone stopped it before it started." The woman's voice cracked. "I wanted to say thank you. My brother gets to come home. Because of people like you." She left before Evelyn could respond. Just walked away back to the memorial, back to grieving whoever she'd lost. Brennan exhaled slowly. "See, you saved someone's brother. That matters. 14 people still died, and 947 didn't. Both things are true. You don't get to only count the failures." Evelyn looked at him. "When did you become a philosopher?" "About 30 seconds ago. How'd I do?" "Terrible. Stick to shooting people." "Yes, ma'am." They left the memorial together. Behind them, the sun was setting over San Diego Harbor, painting the water in shades of orange and purple. Beautiful. Peaceful. A peace that operators like them protected. A peace that came with a price. They'd paid part of that price. 14 lives. 2 children. A debt that couldn't be repaid, only honored. And they'd honor it by making sure it never happened again. 2 months later, a secure facility in North Carolina. Harvey Point Defense Testing Activity. Underground complex, unmarked. The kind of place that didn't officially exist. Evelyn Thorne stood in a briefing room in front of 12 operators. 6 men, 6 women, ages ranging from 24 to 38. All veterans, all volunteers, all carefully selected from the best special operations units in the military and intelligence community. She wore simple fatigues, no rank insignia, no unit patch, just a name tape that read Thorne. And on her wrist, a new bracelet. Not black obsidian this time, silver. engraved with 14 names, the casualties from San Diego. A reminder, a promise. I'm Lieutenant Commander Evelyn Thorne, she said, her voice carrying through the room with absolute authority. For the next 6 months, I'm going to train you to hunt and eliminate the most dangerous terrorist network on the planet. The Shadow Syndicate, former intelligence operatives, military contractors, rogue state actors. They're smart, they're trained, they're experienced, and they know how we think because most of them used to be us. The operators listen, focused, ready. You're going to learn advanced marksmanship, survival, evasion, resistance, escape protocols, tactical psychology, close quarters combat, cyber operations, financial tracking, everything you need to operate in hostile territory with minimal support against adversaries who are just as good as you are. It's going to be hard. It's going to be painful. Some of you might quit. That's fine. This isn't for everyone. She paused, looked at each of them in turn, memorizing faces. These would be her team, her responsibility. And if any of them died, that would be on her. But if you make it through, if you prove you can handle this, you'll become part of something important, something that matters. You'll be protecting people who don't even know they need protecting. You'll be stopping threats before they materialize. You'll be the ghosts who hunt ghosts. Lieutenant Commander Cole Brennan stood beside her, arms crossed, promoted after the submarine operation and officially designated as second in command. His leg had healed completely, though he still favored it slightly in cold weather. The shrapnel scar was just another reminder, like all scars. Evidence of survival. Behind them, a large screen showed the syndicate's known network. Cells in 40 countries, hundreds of operators, thousands of support personnel. A sprawling organization built by one man's grief and transformed into a machine designed to inflict that grief on others. This is what we're up against, Evelyn continued, and this is what we're going to dismantle, one cell at a time, one operation at a time, until there's nothing left but memory and prisoners awaiting trial. One of the new operators raised her hand, young, maybe 25, former Marine Force Recon, name tape read Martinez. Ma'am, permission to speak, granted. What's the unit motto? Evelyn smiled slightly. First time in weeks. Vincit quis vincit, Latin. It means he conquers who conquers himself. Martinez frowned. What does that mean in practical terms? It means the hardest enemy you'll ever face isn't out there. It's in here. Evelyn tapped her temple. Your fears, your doubts, your anger when someone you care about gets hurt, your desire for revenge when the enemy makes it personal. If you can conquer those things, if you can stay focused on the mission instead of the emotion, you can conquer anything. That's what separates us from people like Ashford. We control ourselves. We don't let our pain control us. Martinez nodded, understanding or beginning to. Training starts tomorrow at 0500, Evelyn said. Get some rest, familiarize yourself with the facility, and think hard about whether this is really what you want. Because once we start, there's no turning back. You'll know things that will mark you for life. You'll do things that will change you. Make sure you're ready for that. The operators filed out. Conversations started immediately. Speculation about the training, sizing each other up, the natural dynamics of a new team forming. Brennan remained behind, reviewing the roster on his tablet. Good group, he said. 3 SEALs, 2 Delta, 3 Marines, 2 Army Special Forces, 2 CIA. That's a lot of different backgrounds. Could be friction. Could be strength, different perspectives, different skill sets. We'll need all of it to take down the syndicate. You think we can actually do it, dismantle the whole organization? Evelyn looked at the screen, at the web of connections spanning the globe, at all the work ahead, years of it, maybe a lifetime. I don't know, she said honestly, but I know we're going to try, and sometimes trying is enough. Sometimes just refusing to quit is what makes the difference. Deep thoughts for a Tuesday. It's Wednesday. See, I've already lost track of time. This job is affecting me. Despite everything, Evelyn almost laughed. Almost. Get out of here, Brennan. Let me finish the prep. He left. She stayed in the briefing room, surrounded by screens and data and the weight of what she'd signed up for. Responsibility for 12 lives. Responsibility for stopping threats that could kill thousands. Responsibility for making sure Ashford's legacy died with his imprisonment. Admiral Pierce appeared in the doorway. He'd come to observe the first briefing, to make sure everything was proceeding according to plan. Impressive speech, Thorne. You sounded like a leader. I had good teachers, sir. Even the bad ones taught me something. Yes, they did. Pierce stepped into the room. I have news. Ashford's interrogation is progressing. We've identified 17 syndicate cells based on his information. 8 have been neutralized. 9 are under surveillance. He's being cooperative, relatively speaking. Why, what does he get out of it? He asked to see you. Evelyn's stomach tightened. No. That's what I told him. But he said he has information about Jakarta, about who really leaked the intelligence that led to your team's ambush. He'll only tell you. It's a manipulation, a game. He wants to get in my head. Probably. But what if he's telling the truth? What if there's a mole we haven't identified? Evelyn was quiet for a long moment. Then where is he being held? Classified location, Virginia. I can arrange transport. No, I won't give him the satisfaction. If he wants to talk, he can do it through official channels. Written statement. Recorded interview. But I'm not sitting across from him. I'm not giving him that power. Pierce nodded. I'll let him know. For what it's worth, I think you're making the right call. He doesn't deserve my time. He had his chance to be something better. He chose this. Yes, he did. Pierce turned to leave, then paused at the door. Thorne, the tribunal is scheduled for 6 months from now. They'll want you to testify, to present evidence. Are you prepared for that? I'll do what's required. It won't be easy. Defense will try to paint Ashford as a victim, as someone driven to extremes by government betrayal. He was betrayed. That part's true, but it doesn't excuse what he became. Doesn't excuse 14 dead in San Diego. Doesn't excuse Jakarta. Doesn't excuse any of it. Good. Hold on to that clarity. You'll need it. He left. Evelyn powered down the screens one by one. The room grew darker, quieter. Just her and the mission and the long road ahead. She touched the silver bracelet on her wrist. 14 names. 14 people who deserved better. Who deserved justice. I won't let you down, she whispered to the empty room. Any of you. I'll finish this. The right way. No shortcuts. No compromises. Justice, not revenge. The words echoed briefly, then faded. But the promise remained. Always. 6 months later, a military tribunal courtroom. Undisclosed location. Security tighter than most presidential events. Evelyn sat in the witness box, sworn in, facing a panel of 5 military judges. To her right, Garrett Ashford sat at the defense table wearing prison fatigues, his right hand in a permanent brace from the injuries she'd inflicted. His beard was shorter now. Grayer. He looked older. Diminished somehow, but his eyes were the same. Cold. Calculating. Watching her with that same clinical interest. The prosecutor, a Navy captain with 20 years of experience, stood. Lieutenant Commander Thorne, can you describe in your own words the events of March 2021 in Jakarta, Indonesia? Evelyn took a breath. She'd prepared for this, had gone over her testimony 100 times. But preparation didn't make it easier. My team was tasked with neutralizing a Shadow Syndicate weapons cache. 12 tons of Semtex, 3 modified submarines. We inserted at 2300 hours. Intel indicated minimal security. We were wrong. What happened? Ambush. 40 hostiles, military trained. They were waiting for us. Knew our entry point, our timing, our objective. It was a trap. And your team? 11 killed in action. Captain Wade Hollis, 58 years old, 2 tours. Gulf War. Lieutenant Sarah Vance, 32. Master Chief Thomas Reed, 45. She continued through the list. Names, ages, backgrounds, making them real. Making sure the court understood these weren't just statistics. And you survived. Yes. Captain Hollis ordered me to complete the mission. To detonate the Semtex regardless of casualties. I followed orders. The prosecutor nodded. And you believe the defendant was responsible for planning this ambush? I know he was. The tactics, the precision, the intelligence they had, it had his signature. And during his interrogation, he confirmed it. The defense attorney stood. Older man, civilian, expensive suit. Objection. The interrogation statements are inadmissible under the coercion statute. The lead judge, a Marine general, frowned. Sustained, the witness will limit her testimony to direct knowledge. The prosecutor adjusted. Lieutenant Commander, based on your training with the defendant and your experience in the field, did the Jakarta ambush demonstrate tactical patterns consistent with his teaching? Yes, specifically the use of multiple kill zones, the timing of the assault to maximize confusion, and the selection of escape routes. All consistent with his methodology. The questioning continued for 3 hours. Details? Timelines? Evidence. Evelyn answered every question precisely, professionally. Didn't let emotion creep in. This was testimony, not revenge. When the prosecution finished, the defense attorney approached. Lieutenant Commander Thorne, you stated that you were Mr. Ashford's student from 2016 to 2019, correct? Correct. And during that time, he trained you in advanced combat techniques? Yes. Would you say he was a good instructor? He was an effective instructor. That's not what I asked. Was he good? Did he care about his students? Evelyn hesitated, trap question, but she'd promised to tell the truth. Yes, he cared at that time. And what changed? The CIA's betrayal, his wife's death. He let his pain turn him into something else. Oh, something else? Or something that had always been there. You testified that you've killed 193 people. Lieutenant Commander, are you so different from my client? The prosecutor objected. The judge sustained it, but the question hung in the air. During a recess, Evelyn stepped outside for air, found Brennan waiting in the hallway. You're doing great in there, he said. I feel like I'm on trial, not him. That's the game. Make the witness look bad, maybe the defendant looks better by comparison. Don't let it get to you. I'm trying. How's he looking, Ashford? Old, broken, but still dangerous. You can see it in his eyes. He's already planning his next move. From Supermax. What's he going to do, stare menacingly at guards? I don't know, but he's thinking something. I know that look. When testimony resumed, Ashford himself took the stand. Evelyn sat in the gallery, forced to listen. He was articulate, compelling. Talked about his 20 years of service, about operations that saved American lives, about the Syria mission that killed his wife, about the CIA's betrayal. They burned me, he said, voice heavy with controlled emotion, after everything I'd given, after watching my wife die because of their mistake. They threatened me, froze my accounts, made it clear that if I spoke publicly, I'd disappear. What was I supposed to do? Accept it, be a good soldier, and fade away. So you formed the Shadow Syndicate, the prosecutor said. I created an organization of operators who'd been similarly betrayed, who'd been used and discarded. We weren't terrorists. We were survivors. Survivors who planned to kill 947 American sailors. To make a point, to show that the government's actions have consequences. No one would have died if Lieutenant Commander Thorne hadn't interfered. Evelyn's hands clenched. Brennan put a hand on her shoulder. Easy. He's trying to provoke you. The trial lasted 6 weeks. Testimony from 40 witnesses. Evidence spanning 3 continents. Financial records. Communications intercepts. Satellite imagery. The verdict was unanimous. Guilty on all 47 counts. Treason, terrorism, conspiracy to commit murder. Material support to foreign terrorist organizations. The lead judge delivered the sentence. Garrett Michael Ashford, you are hereby sentenced to life imprisonment without possibility of parole at ADX Florence, Colorado. You will serve in solitary confinement for the first 10 years, after which your status will be reviewed. You will have no contact with the outside world except through approved legal counsel. You will never be released. Do you understand this sentence? Ashford stood, looked at the judges, then at Evelyn. I understand, but I want the court to know something. I'm proud of what I built, proud of what I stood for, and I'm proud of her. He gestured toward Evelyn. My best student. Even now, even after everything, she's still trying to be better than I taught her to be. That's worth something. The guards led him away. He didn't resist, didn't look back. Outside the courthouse, reporters were waiting despite the classified nature of the proceedings. Word had leaked somehow. Evelyn and Brennan pushed through without comment. In the car back to Harvey Point, Brennan drove. Evelyn stared out the window. You okay? He asked. I don't know. It should feel like victory. He's going to prison for life. The syndicate is crumbling. We're hunting down the cells. Everything's going according to plan. But 14 people are still dead. 2 children still don't get to grow up. And somewhere out there, someone else is probably planning the next attack, the next betrayal, the next tragedy. So we stop them too. That's the job. Is it enough just stopping one thing after another, never getting ahead, always reacting? Brennan was quiet for a moment. Then my dad was a firefighter. Brooklyn, 30 years. I asked him once if it bothered him that fires kept happening, that he couldn't stop all of them. You know what he said? What? He said, every fire you put out is a house that doesn't burn, a family that goes home. That's enough. You don't get to stop all fires. You just get to fight the ones in front of you. Evelyn absorbed that. Your dad sounds smart. He was, died in the line. September 11th, North Tower. I'm sorry. Me too, but he taught me something important. You don't measure success by what you couldn't stop. You measure it by what you did stop, who you saved, who made it home because you were there. They drove in silence for a while. Then Evelyn said, "Your dad would be proud of you." "Yeah, maybe. I hope so." "He would be. Trust me." That night back at Harvey Point, Evelyn stood in the training facility, empty now, silent. The 12 Ghost Protocol operators were off duty enjoying a rare weekend before the next deployment. She looked at photos on the wall. The team, missions completed, syndicate cells neutralized, 3 months of operations, 8 more cells destroyed, 43 operatives captured, 0 friendly casualties. Progress, real progress. But the cost was always there. The 14 names on her bracelet, the knowledge that somewhere right now someone was planning something terrible, and she couldn't stop all of it. Her phone buzzed. Text from Admiral Pierce. Syndicate cell identified in Berlin. High priority. Recommend immediate deployment. Your call. Evelyn stared at the message. She could authorize it, send her team in, hunt the next cell, stop the next attack. Or she could wait, take time to plan, to prepare, to make sure they didn't miss anything. But waiting meant risk, meant the cell might act first. She typed back, "Team deploys in 24 hours. I'll lead." A.K. Pierce responded immediately. "Copy. Good hunting." Evelyn set down the phone, touched the silver bracelet. 14 names, 14 reasons to keep fighting. "This one's for you," she whispered. "All of you, the ones we lost and the ones we saved. I'm not stopping. Ever." She turned off the lights and walked out. Behind her, the facility went dark. But somewhere in the darkness, her team was preparing. Training. Getting ready. Because that's what ghosts do. They hunt in the shadows. They protect people who never know they were in danger. They pay the price that others don't have to. And Evelyn Thorne, call sign Valkyrie, 193 confirmed kills and counting, wouldn't stop until the job was done. Until every syndicate cell was dismantled. Until Ashford's legacy was nothing but ash. Until the ghost could finally rest. Vincit quis vincit. He conquers who conquers himself. The lesson Ashford never learned. The lesson that made all the difference. The lesson that would save the world. One mission at a time. One life at a time. Forever forward. Into the dark. Into the unknown. That's the calling. That's the promise. That's what it means to be a ghost. And she was ready for whatever came next. Always.